any advice you'd give to any rookie rep that's kind of looking around right now?
Push a little bit harder, just do one more extra door, knock a little bit later. By the end of the summer, like everyone's super ecstatic about the results.
I like how you just kind of like braced up like you're about to get hit.
Bracing for impact for that first question.
It's the leadership I try to inspire. It's fear through management.
Yeah. What was the book you read? The Art of War.
Art of War, Crucial Conversations. And then I was like, you can have crucial conversations or you can avoid crucial conversations.
I know you take a lot from ancient China and their war tactics.
They are definitely on a war path right now.
Some pretty good leadership qualities coming out of there.
Mao really commanded respect.
We're off to a good start.
Great start. Love working with you. 4 years now, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Past summer, the highest performing top sales rep I've ever worked with. Over 450K in service revenue. Had a month over 120K. Had a 13K day. You led over 2 rookies past the 200K mark their first year, man. Just kind of blew it out of the water from all the way from top performing sales to the leadership end of it, of helping you guys finish towards the end of the summer, man. Obviously you freaking worked your tail off, man. Why are you working so hard?
Well, I got a house to pay for and I got a baby now. So that'll definitely motivate. But I mean, beyond that, like, I think what I've loved so much about this job is it just constantly like pushes your limits like every year, like whether that's like in personal sales or with managing a team and helping your team sell more, like there's always like room to get better. And like every summer, there's always like a couple of things that I'm like wanting to do different no matter like how good the summer was. And so that's always really motivating for me. And why I keep doing this is I get addicted to the type of growth that you can experience like year over year doing this.
Yeah. And that's kind of one of the things we push, right? There's lots of different companies out here, but what hooked me initially was just like the integrity of the leadership that I felt was at this company. I feel like in door to door in general, it's kind of hard to find, what truth is out there. And one of my favorite stories is kind of like why you chose Moxie. Bring and coming across a lot of reps this year. And there's lots of companies out there. And I even argue there's even lots of pretty good companies out there too. Why don't you mind sharing your story about like why you chose to work here at Moxie and any advice you'd give to like any rookie rep that's kind of looking around right now?
Yeah, I mean, I remember kind of going back and forth with you and a couple other companies. It was a good time. Just had to do my due diligence, which I respect. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, I just remember like I wanted to go with a company where I not only felt like I was going to make the most and have the best opportunity, but also just like do it the right way. And like no other company was talking about doing it the right way. It was all just about the money, which I think is important. But I've found if you're doing the right things and being the right person, then the money just tends to follow. And that's kind of been my experience, like even over this past summer. It's just like, if I'm working really hard, really focused on my goals and like giving 100%, like doing it in principle centered way, like the money like will always come. And so that's what really attracted me to Moxie initially, is just like, I knew like if I did it with Moxie, like it'd be done the right way. Like, I think it's super cool that even like Moxie is very transparent to the point where it's like, yeah, if you're like dishonest or lying the doors, like they'll just send you home.
Yeah.
And I think like that was like a very attractive feature to me. Cause I mean, especially if I was going to recruit a team and like actually build a future here, like I wanted to like help other people do it the right way too.
I think that says a lot about who you are and like the company for sure that we're trying to be. And I remember for me as well, when I was looking around and I was getting recruited, it was just really important to me that I went somewhere that I knew my reps would get paid. I think you can argue any company is going to pay their top performers well, like any company is. But for me, I just remember meeting with Tim initially, and I went and talked to like the reps that actually didn't sell as well. And I was just like, hey, like, what was your experience like? And all of them just had raving reviews about Tim, about Moxie, and like their experience over the course of the summer. And for me, that's kind of what really helped me push come over here. And as well too, like, I think hands down, I think it's known industry wide, like we have the absolute best pest control service out there, like period. Like maybe there's Joe Schmo's company there. He's the only guy running it and he'll run around and do some crazy stuff, right? But like on a scalable model, like we've put a ton of investment into having the highest quality service on a scalable level. And once again, I think you would sell well regardless of where you're at, but like, how did that help you this summer knowing like you were selling like a high quality pest control service?
Well, it helps you maintain your integrity, right? It's like if you're selling a product that you don't actually believe in or you don't feel like will actually serve the customer, like that, I mean, there's no integrity behind that, right? And like a lot of people make excuses now, like, oh, like, the service doesn't matter. Like, I think it does a ton, not only just for you making more money, but for you, like, being the honest person that you want to be. But also too, like, I think you end up making a lot more money. Like I've seen a ton of people at other companies who go out for a summer and they'll brag about, oh yeah, I only had like 30% cancel. I'm like, wow, that's brutal. You're only getting paid like 70% of the accounts that you produced, right? It's like,
and just a note on that, you had one of your top producing reps who did over 200,000 in revenue. What was his cancellation rate?
Yeah, it was 4%. So it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, my whole time doing this, I've never had above like 7 or 8% as well. And so it's like, you can sell at a high volume, sell at a really high contract value because it's a really good service and like customers stay on. And so you'll end up making more money as well in the long run by far.
Well, I mean, having the best service, I think increases the integrity of who we are. Like, I never wanted to be the guy that was throwing up a junk service just to get some numbers, man. Like, I wanted to sell a premium service. And like, for me, and I know for a lot of reps that I've known that are high producers, like something that's discouraging is like you have your sales and service number, and then you start watching the cancellations hit in June, July, and August. And I think it's really discouraging for a lot of reps that are out there. I don't know who it wouldn't be. But what's pretty cool about standing behind our service is like that's very few and far between with anyone that's within our company.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like even from like, the top salesman down to the bottom, like, the cancellation rate is really good. It's just because we're selling a high quality service that like people actually believe in it and like doing it in an honest way. So like that would be the worst feeling ever. You go out and sell and then, yeah, like I've even heard horror stories of people having like 50% of their accounts cancel. I'm like, man, to like only make half of what you like sold, like that'd be miserable. So yeah, like I know a lot of companies will try to convince you like that like that's how it is everywhere, but it just really isn't. Like here, like I very rarely have seen anyone above 10 to 12% cancellation rate, which is pretty cool in my opinion.
I think it's really cool. And I think something that translates to like more you personally use your leadership is that you had almost everyone, but maybe a couple people signed back on to come back and sell with you the next year. And I think it's easy for a top performing rep that did really well at this. Like who wouldn't sign on and come back, right? But for you, you had a ton of people choose to come back and work with you again, man. So would you mind sharing like kind of what went over that leadership and how are you able to get everyone to sign back on?
Well, I think like creating just a really fun experience over the summer. Like we've sold in DC the last 4 summers. There's just a ton of fun things to do out there. And so every weekend we're doing fun stuff, whether that's going to DC, checking out the monuments, hitting up King's Dominion. Like we do a lot of fun stuff. And not only are you going to have the best experience, but also like making more than anywhere else you would. And I think people get really excited about the growth and the opportunity. Like obviously like we've had rookies that are making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in just one summer. But then when you give those kind of guys who get a team lead offer, not only are we flying them out to Hawaii, but like giving them elite leadership training that they can take with them the rest of their lives and then show them a very clear path to making 6 figures. Like, and honestly, it's set up so well for anyone to be making 6 figures. Like it's very possible in your first year, but even more possible like year 2, year 3 to like continue to like double your income every year.
Yeah.
Because I know that's been my personal experience. And so that's really fun. And when people can start to catch and see that vision of like the growth and who they're becoming, and really it just like speeds up your life by like 4 or 5 years. Like you're doing stuff that like most people are doing in their 30s and 40s. Like it's kind of funny. I was thinking about the other day, like I just bought a home in Springville. I'm in this neighborhood. I'm like by far the youngest dude there.
Yeah.
Like everyone's very established. They have like a bunch of kids and like, it's like the loudest ward I've ever been in. But like I'm in there and I'm like, everybody's like, oh, so are you like just renting here? I'm like, no, I bought a house here. You know, it's just, it's kind of funny. Like it just really does speed up your life like so much faster and grants you like so many opportunities, not just on the investment side, but to provide for your family like at a much earlier age than like any other opportunity would.
Totally agree.
And so that becomes really fun. And that's why people end up coming back.
And kind of like even leading into that just a little bit, like I think personally you could be working for anyone and being super successful and growing quite a bit. Like door to door, if you've never done it before, probably 99% chance this is going to be one of the most difficult things you've ever chosen to do. And even for people that have done it, they would agree with that statement. But even moving forward, that's hard to do, right? Like for you, with all you've accomplished, with all the money you've made, and knowing what the challenge this job is, like, why are you coming back?
It's the growth. It's like, I mean, if you look at any other opportunity, like where else can you like, you know, double your income in 1 year by just like working harder, like getting better at your craft? Like you can't really find that kind of opportunity anywhere. Mm-hmm. It's given us an opportunity to like invest at a really young age, to buy a house at a really young age, but also like I love like the leadership skills I'm learning, like that I learned from you, Tanner, like Tim, like the 7 habits training that we get and like the leadership training that you get here. It's like so incredible. And I don't think it's like very normal to be able to find that. And I think a big aspect too is like you constantly want to surround yourself, especially like I think in your 20s, like with people who are constantly trying to get better. Yeah. And you want to be around a network and environment that's like constantly pushing that, or you're just going to get like bogged down. Cause like on average, society's not, it's trying to take the path of least resistance. Yeah. Door to door is definitely not that path. And so like it constantly is like, you're putting yourself around people who are like trying to get better, who are investing not only in themselves, but also just like financially, whether that's the stock market or like in houses. And so like you're having those conversations. So that's constantly like helping you become better and like build more wealth. And so I think that's really, really fun and addictive. In my opinion.
I think it's really fun. It's super addictive. And like, I'm glad you've caught that fire, man. And kind of leading into that, you obviously had one of the highest performing offices in our company. You guys did really, really well as far as numbers, retention, and getting people to sign back on. Where are you looking to improve next year?
I'm looking to improve and do it at a much larger scale. So like, you know, obviously I did over 450K in revenue. I had 2 sophomore reps do over 200K in revenue, a rookie do over 250K in revenue. Like that's really impressive. Now I'd like to get like 30, 40, 50 people doing that, right? And I think like it's totally doable. Like we've kind of perfected our processes. We've like gotten to the point where like people are selling like at absurd levels. And so like the more the merrier at this point. Like I want to find guys who are like really hungry, hardworking, and like ready to get after it and help them do the exact same thing we've done with everybody else. So.
Well, I mean, I think those values are what we're looking for in all our guys. And I think that for sure characterizes like your ideal candidate. But what can reps expect from the kind of leadership and commitment from you?
Yeah, me personally, like I will be just as invested, if not more invested in your goals than you are and helping you succeed. Like I'll constantly be pushing the limit, and I'm not going to be a leader that's going to tell you like, drop you off like, hey, go make me some money. Yeah. I'm going to actually be down there. As
inspiring as that is.
Very inspiring. Yeah. But I'm going to be down there in the trenches with all of my guys. Like I don't tell any of my reps to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself, whether that's getting on the doors early, knocking a little bit later to just get that one extra sale. But like, I firmly believe having a leader that leads from the front and who's been there, done that before, like, is massively helpful. And I'll obviously provide like the basics of on the door training and like one-on-one sales training leading up to the summer, which I think is invaluable. But just having someone out there that is like working just as hard as you are, but probably even harder.
Yeah.
On top of like managing a full team, like I think that's like inspiring versus the drop off, go to the movie theater like most managers in other companies.
Yeah. So. And what I really like is like, I can for sure vouch for that, man. Like, I've had many conversations with you where sometimes you're frustrated because reps aren't taking their goals as seriously as you'd like. But like, I've seen you like push reps really, really hard into doing things that they didn't even think was possible. And that is super hard to find in leadership, man. And a big theme for me this year, I shared it with all my leadership in Hawaii, is commitment. I think we have a lot of amazing cultural values, but kind of what you've talked about, like just society in general and overall is just moving away from people that make and keep commitments, right? And anybody that knows me knows like I don't make a ton of commitments, but the ones I do take, I take very seriously and I keep them. And I like it's someone like you, like being out there in the trenches, performing no matter what the area is like, no matter what the weather's like consistently day in and day out is super inspiring, but it takes an insane level of personal commitment to go out there and to sell that well. And on top of that, Charlie wasn't the manager that dropped guys off and said, watch me sell. Like you were on the doors, you were doing performance reviews, you were doing everything plus some to require it and then getting on the doors and performing, man. So would you mind sharing about how you're able to get such a deep level commitment to that level of success?
Yeah, I mean, having like a really strong why is obviously very helpful because I think it is easy. Like, you know, if you're just focused on the money, like after you make six figures, most college students are like pretty satisfied with that, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people hit a certain goal and then they're like, okay, well, like I feel good about my summer, and then they'll take their foot off the gas pedal. It was kind of cool working with, I mean, our team absolutely crushed it this year, like we talked about, but like some reps I even had to have conversations with like a month into the summer, like, hey, looks like you're about to hit your goal for the whole summer.
Yeah.
Like, how can we like raise this goal, and like, what is like the next goal that you want to make, just so like you're constantly like pushing yourself and helping yourself get better. So like I remember Matthew Sorensen, rookie that sold over 250K in revenue this summer, like
fresh out of high school.
Yeah, 19 years old, like fresh out of high school. Really impressive, hardworking individual. I think, you know, midway through the summer, he was already, you know, I want to say he was close to like 200 accounts, which was like, that was like our goal. Like, dude, let's get to 200. And he was about to hit 200. Like, all right, like we need to change this goal. And so we upped it to 250K in revenue and like over 300 accounts. And so we're like, all right, now like here's like what you need to do on a daily basis. This is like what I think you can expect from yourself. Instead of just like shooting for that 2 to 3 today, I think you're fully capable of going 4, 5, 6, even 7 a day. And that's what he did. And so it's really cool to have, I think it's fun to have a leader that's going to constantly like push you and help you get better and help you catch that vision of like what your full potential is. And those are the kind of people that, you know, working with you and Tanner, you guys have always done that for me. That's what's made it really fun for me, is seeing guys go do that and helping them catch that vision of like what's really possible and help them push a little bit harder, just do one more extra door, knock a little bit later. And then by the end of the summer, like everyone's like super ecstatic about the results.
Super ecstatic, man. I think you can't take away, or I don't think you get enough credit when you have a leader like you that's consistently putting on double digits, you know, weekly and having such high volume. Like it just removes so many limiting beliefs from reps, and like it's incredibly inspiring. It's inspiring for me to see. And your commitment was so deep. I remember too, like you didn't want to be number one by a little bit. You wanted to be number one by a lot of it, you know? And like, I think roughly the next guy behind you in our offices was about 50 to 60K behind you in revenue. Like you blew out the competition this summer, man, by wide margins. And that kind of level of excellence and success is super inspiring. And for anybody that's just looking to improve or get better, man, like I think you should reach out and talk to Chuck. And kind of talking about that a little bit, questions I've gotten, I'm sure you get quite a bit, is, you know, where do you most reps quit and how do you push that, right? like everybody will talk about burnout or they'll talk about they hit a certain mark. I believe in this job, it's hard. It brings almost everybody to their knees, especially a rookie rep. Like I don't know there's a rookie rep that hasn't cried at least once in the summer. Like this job at times can cause a lot of discouragement, man. And it's really hard for people to respond and come back from those feelings, man. Like when you receive a challenge or when you see something that's not measuring up to your standards, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I think there's a ton of things that happen over the summer that can either be like a distraction or something. Like a lot of times you'll see what happens, like a rep's kind of rolling through doing great over the summer, and then they hit an obstacle or there's something like comes in their way, and then boom, rocks their world. And then you can a lot of times see them start to tank. And I think the key to that is like one, having like a really deep why of like why you're out there, why you're doing this beyond just like a financial incentive, which I think is great. Mm-hmm. But once you hit that financial goal, like what's going to keep you going? And so I think it's like having your efforts tied to the process and the journey, not just like the end result, I think has been a huge part of my success. Like I remember feeling like this when I started my church mission. Like for 2 years, I was like, I only get 2 years to do this. Like I don't want to have any regrets. And like I always pictured myself like at the end of my mission, how was I going to feel like at the end of my mission? Like I wanted to like get on the plane, just feel like I gave it my absolute all. And so that's kind of how I like approach the summer and approach my life in general, is like, I don't want to like look back and have any regrets. And so, I always picture myself, at least with the summer, in Hawaii, like on a beach chair, just like chilling, looking at the waves. I'm like, I want to feel really good about my effort I put in, like not even necessarily the number. And what I found a lot of times is like when I do put in the right effort, like I'll get the result I want. Yeah. But really just focused on like the process and the journey, the struggle, and just like learning and growth, like constant, like random situations that I've had over the summer where like easily like would have derailed most reps. Like I kind of
want to pause you right there, because there's one of my favorite stories of you this summer, right? So like, I think the story I'm going to ask you to share kind of highlights why you're such a top performer. There's a certain day where I believe you had 8 sales, but you weren't off to a super hot start. You may have wiped out on your Segway. Would you mind kind of sharing that story a little bit?
Yeah. So it's on my Segway pretty early on in the day. Hit a speed bump that I swear was not there initially. Hit the speed bump, totally wipe out, and like all bloodied up. Like, all right, like go to my car real quick to like bandage up and like clean up a little bit. Turns out like I went to my car and like closed my trunk, realized like I locked my keys and my iPad and Segway in the car. So that was awesome. And so then I was like, well, crap, like all I had was my phone. So I called up AAA to like come get me inside my car. They're like, oh, we're going to be a few hours. So I just like went out there and started hitting the doors and just like making the most of the day. And then it turns out like I ended up with like 8 sales that day. And I think a lot of days, most people would be spending hours like waiting for AAA to show up, or going to the gas station, cleaning up. And there's no shame in that, but like my philosophy,
there's also no winning in that.
Yeah. But my personal philosophy is like, if I'm out there and I'm like already bloodied up, I'm already like in pain, like I might as well be making money and like, giving it my all while I'm out there. And so what I've found is like a lot of times when I go through something really difficult or distraction like that, I'll like detach myself a little bit and just be like, all right, like how can I make the most of this scenario? How can I make the most of this situation? I'm already out in the doors. It's already hot. I'm already sweating a ton. Like, why not just go make some sales like that? Making sales on a day like that is way better than making no sales on a day. Yeah. And I would argue a lot of people end up bageling on those kind of days, or just pulling out like the bare minimum, the 1 or 2, and finding a million different ways to distract them. But I find
you found a million ways just to go and win.
Yeah. I mean, even just like in general, like my schedule on the doors, like, I mean, again, some people prefer to like take way more time to sharpen the saw. Mm-hmm. For me personally, like I don't take more than 5-minute breaks. Like I'll go eat some beef jerky really quick after I get my first sale, as like kind of like positive reinforcement to myself. Like, oh, you get a little snack if you get a sale kind of thing. But outside of that, like I don't take any breaks. I don't go to the gas station like midday. Like I'm out there the entire time. My line is in the water the entire time.
I just kind of want to put up just a pause on what you said right there, because like I think what you did is key is like putting the 5-minute break, right? Like even someone like you that did over 450,000 revenue, like you're still human, right? Like every once in a while, there's maybe that customer that cussed you out, or someone got inside your head, or you went through some rejection. Like what I hope I can communicate is like, hey, we're all human, man. Like if you need to take a breather, like that's fine. If you need to hop on some social media, make a quick call, right? But the key is you kept it to 5 minutes, right? Just enough to mentally check out, gather yourself, and then get back into it. I think where a lot of reps make the mistake is like they'll go to the curb, which, you know, one of the things like we're emphatic about is just choose never to sit on the curb, right? Like take a breather, go stand under a tree, right? Make the call, but don't sit down, right? Don't ever sit on the curb, right?
Right.
And what I've seen happen is like a rep will just be like, okay, I just need to take 5, and that 5 turns into 10, and that 10 turns into 20. And then the days kind of just cycles on, man, and they just kind of wallow in their misery. And I think the way you respond to adversity is amazing, man. Like, yeah, you get hit too, take your 5 minutes, recollect, then get back at it. And I think that's some of the best advice any rookie or experienced rep could have is like, when you do get popped in the chin, man, like nobody's saying like you're a robot, man. Like take a breather, but make sure you get back in the fight as quickly as possible.
Exactly. Because I mean, it's funny, like you can always just see how it works sometimes. Like, all right, I'm just gonna go to the gas station real quick and get like a Gatorade, and then next thing you know, like, oh well, I need to use the bathroom too. Use the bathroom, and then you're like, oh well, I should probably just like call my grandma while I'm like walking back.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I need to check in on this, and then next thing you know, like you've been off the doors for like an hour, and then obviously you're not gonna get the best results or the results you want if you're like doing stuff like that. And it's like, I mean, it's really easy to fall into that trap. So
really easy. Really easy.
Most reps don't even realize that they've taken an hour off the doors. But then at the end of the day, when they have like 1 or 2 less sales than they expect, usually that is like kind of where it comes from. But I think that process of just like detaching yourself and just like evaluating a situation, whether it's like you had someone just like curse you out on the doors, or whether like, you know, you totally destroyed on your Segway.
Bleeding
like,
everywhere.
Like detach yourself and like focus on like what you're wanting to get out of this. And like, think about like, if you can continue to do your job and like continue to like work through trials and like adversity during the summer, like you can do that the rest of your life. Like no one's going to be immune to like challenges or distractions or obstacles their whole life. Like, but if you can learn to do that in the summer, then that's something you can take with you like the rest of your life. And I think that's like when you have like really cool moments to build your mental toughness that will bless not only you, but like your family and all the people you're around too.
Yeah. I think he talked about it earlier in our conversation, just kind of compounding effect, right? Like what you were able to do year 1, which was amazing and challenging to you, wasn't that hard for year 2. And then moving up to year 4, man, doing what you did is just like, it feels like inhuman, man, what you did. It's super incredible. And, kind of just something I want to ask you about. Like, I think I could drop you in the middle of Saskatchewan, Canada, and you'd probably do, $500,000 in revenue. But I have a deep love for the DC offices that we work in. You've worked there forever. I probably believe you know it like the back of your hand. Like, what are some things you love about selling in those DC markets?
Well, one, they have a ton of money. So, I mean, yeah, the government's constantly pumping money in there.
Yeah,
so
I'm not afraid to share my political views with anyone, but whatever side of the aisle you're on, they tend to spend a lot of money. 7 of the 10 wealthiest counties surround the DC area. So right now it's September 2022. We'll see what the economy does. But one thing I do know for a fact is they're going to continue to pass spending bills. It's probably going to go up. And where we sell tend to benefit from all that government spending.
Yeah, that place is pretty recession proof.
Yeah,
I would definitely say. On top of that, like I just love the type of people there in terms of selling. Like they're very business-like, and so a lot of times, like you're not gonna have as many people wasting your time. They're like very down to business, and so if you can learn to come off and communicate confidently and competently with like correct body language and paraverbals, then you can gain their respect really quick, and you can get in the door and like make a sale pretty fast. And so like,
Yeah.
I mean, I look back on the summer and like, I think there was a very high percentage of my sales that were like probably less than 10 minutes. And that's with me selling like a general pest control account that's like over $700 or $800, $1,000 mosquito account, and probably setting up a termite appointment as well, all within like 10 to 15 minutes. Because these people, their time is really valuable. And so if you can learn how to communicate confidently with someone and like earn their respect right off the bat, which is like something I train all my reps to do, like you can produce at a really high volume. Because like obviously if you can get a sale in like 10 to 15 minutes, then it makes it a lot easier to do that like 10 to 15 times over the day.
Yeah.
So that's a part that I really like selling out DC. And then also it's just a super fun place to be. Like a lot of guys that we recruit out here, like in Utah and Idaho, have never even been to the East Coast. And it's a fun experience. Like obviously the humidity is brutal, but like outside of that, like there's just a lot of things to do on the weekends. Checking out DC, all the monuments. I love history. And so I love checking out that stuff. Annapolis is like a really cool area, like on the water. You have the Naval Academy there. And then we go to amusement parks, float the river. Like there's just unlimited fun things that you can do over the summer. And so we've always just had like a blast on top of like selling and producing a ton.
Yeah. I think that's key too. Like when you work as hard as you do and just focused as you are, like everybody needs that mental break. And I know for a fact, everyone on your team for sure had a ton of fun this summer too, man. My thing is like, whatever your interest is, odds are there's like a site, a museum, or something like dedicated to that interest that you can go check out on a really cool level. And we've been talking a lot about all the things you've done, but like really the most important person is your amazing wife, Shelby. Consistently over the years is like we're recruiting and we're talking to a lot of reps, particularly ones that are married. They sometimes have some hesitancy because on the outside, it looks like, you know, it'd be a strain on the relationship, or maybe they've heard some bad things about experiences over the summer. And for me, I look at it, I'm like, my most character driven, high producing reps are the ones that are married. And like what you've done is like unreal, but I think it's obvious, like, there's no way you can have done that without the support of a spouse. And like the spouses at Moxie, I feel like are the biggest unsung heroes, right? Like the husband gets all the trophies, they get the podcast, they get the awards, but really like it's the wife that's supporting their husband. It's the wife that's taking care of your new baby, Hallie. It's the wife that's doing a lot of that backdoor stuff that's allowing the husband to shine so much. So I guess like what advice would you give to any rep that's married that's taking a look at doing door to door with us?
Yeah, I mean, find a competitive wife. No.
Yeah, very competitive.
Yeah, if anyone knows Shelby, she's like way more competitive than I am. And I'm like really competitive. So
pause. One of my favorite stories of Shelby is when we were in Panama, man. And I don't even remember what was going on the beach, but people started doing a handstand competition. And then Shelby just pops up. She's like, I bet I can beat all of you guys. These are like all like top performing reps we're looking at, right? Pretty competitive dudes. And she came in and she smoked everyone, man. And the smile on her face afterwards was pretty freaking big.
Yeah, she'll like slit your throat at any board game, like whatever it takes to win. Like she'll burn bridges, whatever it takes. So I mean that helps a ton. I mean, I literally will like come home from the day and like she's just like, all right, like looks like today like you had like 1 or 2 sales less than like your average, so you're gonna have to sell 1 or 2 more tomorrow. Like you're gonna have to pick up some steam, or like, you know, she like knows the numbers super well and she's like really invested. And so I think that kind of goes to like being on the same page with your goals. Yeah. So like Shelby and I like very early on like have like always kind of talked about like her goals and like, you know, what we want in our future and like kind of where we want to be. And like even more so in the last year or two, as like I've become even more committed to this opportunity, like we've gotten like really specific about what we want. And so like we're willing to make certain sacrifices to like achieve those goals. And so if you're being on the same page with your spouse, you're creating those goals together, not just like you sliding over a paper, like sign here, like this is my goals, like, but you come up with it together, then I think it's a lot easier to get on the same page. And then next thing you know, like they're the ones who are like not trying to call and distract you on the doors, but they're like telling you like, hey, like get off the phone with me, like get on the doors. Like we got goals to hit, you know?
Yeah. And
so that's super motivating for me. Like when I'm out there over the summer, like we do a ton of fun stuff with the wives. Like there's lots of wives out there. And so there's a really good support group, which makes it like really fun for them while they're out there, and keeps them busy doing like really good things. We can cut that out. But yeah, essentially like there's a really good culture with the wives, but also like once your spouse is really bought into your goals, like they're going to be also someone who's like motivating and inspiring you to do even more. And if you're already spending like 8 or 9 hours away from your spouse that day, like you might as well be giving it 100%, right? Yeah. Like you want to maximize your time as much as possible. And so that's kind of always been our philosophy, is just like being on the same page with their goals and having really good communication over the summer.
Yeah, I think that's key, man. I think that's areas I've for sure failed, and I see a lot of other reps fail too, is we're really good at communicating on the doors, but not always the best at communicating with our spouses, you know?
Yeah, pretty bad with that.
Yeah, it could be better. Could be better. But I guess to kind of sum it up, I think there's a lot of reasons, man. But like at the end of the day, man, why work on your team, man? Why work for Chuck?
Because I'm going to be just invested as your success as you are. I've been there, done that. And so like, I know exactly like as far as like what training you need to succeed and like produced at the highest level over the summer. But most importantly, I'm going to help you do it the right way and do it in principle-centered way to where you're becoming a better person along the way and helping other people do the same. And then once you start seeing that growth in your personal life and in your character, you'll also start seeing it in your income, and then you'll start getting really excited about the results. And so that's what I look for anyone who's coming out with me. Not only are they going to have the most fun here, they're going to produce the most, but also they're becoming the best version of themselves along the way.
Yeah. And I've seen that with everyone that you've worked with. I've seen that with me, man. I'm really grateful for it. And for whatever it's worth, man, anybody that's looking around, like for sure, Charlie Stone is where you need to be, man. Charlie Stone's going to make you successful. He's going to help you reach your highest version of who you're trying to be. But he knows the path that you need to walk to go win, man. And I just want to say, like, thanks for working with me, man. Thanks for working with Moxie. I'm really excited for summer 2023.
Me too. Thanks, Chase. Cut.